one take um, because I don't know how to edit videos and I don't have any software to do. But something that, I mean, if you're watching this, you will 9 times out of 10 have found this video via Instagram. Because a lot of my Instagram followers always ask me the question, how was I diagnosed with BPD? Another question I get asked a lot is, how am I so confident? So I thought, well, I'm ill, I'm bedbound, I'll make a video on something that I get asked about a lot. So I did a little poll, and the question that everyone wanted me to do a video about was, how did I get diagnosed with BPD? So here's the story. So it all started with a website called Tumblr. And I'm sure the majority of you people will know what that is. I don't use it anymore, but I used to be mad about it. I actually met my first girlfriend on Tumblr. Shouts out Taylor. And so I followed this girl whose name is Luna. I still follow her on Instagram, and she has BPD, which stands for borderline personality disorder, also known as emotionally unstable disorder, which is a pretty self-explanatory disorder, to be honest. Borderline personality disorder is not self-explanatory because people usually, I had someone say to me the other day, you know, we deal with people with full-blown personality disorders or borderline ones, but borderline personality disorder is a full-blown personality disorder. It's just got a weird name. So anyway, I found this girl Lena who has borderline personality disorder, and a lot of her symptoms I resonated with because I had already been diagnosed with depression and with anxiety, and so that made a lot of sense. I took medication, I had cognitive behavioural therapy, also known as CBT, and recovered. I still struggle with them, of course, because they're part of BPD. So I have those and I have BPD. So I knew, because all of my family has depression and anxiety, so it's just the norm to me. It's just how we are, just how our brains are wired. And I thought, well, all of my family seem different to me. My suffering seems different because I am not sad for long amount of time, and I get really happy, like ridiculously happy, and I seem a lot more dramatic and a lot more emotional, so I felt really like an outsider in my own family. And I thought, I think I have what Luna has, this girl that I followed on Tumblr. I think I have BPD, and I was really nervous about this because it's sounds bad, but I mean, nobody really wants to have a personality disorder, because you kind of think, you know, my personality is broken. I'm not like a proper person. So I was very nervous about, you know, saying this to my mom and being like, I think I have this. So I eventually said to her, look, you know, I think I have BPD, and she kind of just like was like, no, I know someone who has BPD and you don't have BPD. So I was like, oh shit, well, I see all of these symptoms, and I finally built this courage to tell her, and she just shot me down. So I was like, okay, you know, mum's know best, so she must know that I don't have it. You know, I'm not that bad. I'm not as bad as Luna or as other people, whatever. And so then my mum kept telling me, because she saw me one morning in a manic episode, so I was very hyper. I was dancing, I couldn't stop dancing and singing. When I get manic episodes, they're very fun for me. I'm in a very happy mood, so I don't really think they're negative at all. So, and she said, you're bipolar, you know, I think you've definitely got bipolar. She showed me this documentary and I was watching it, and I was trying to force myself to relate to it. I was like, eh? You know what I mean? I was like, these people are just talking about, so, you know, for months I'll feel sad, or for weeks I'll feel happy, and I was like, for seconds I'll feel sad, for seconds I'll feel happy, and I'll switch, like, you know, at the click of my fingers. And so I was just like, but you know, okay, mum, I think you're right, because it's just your mum. You just respect them, you agree with them. And then, so I'm going to put a content warning at the on the title of this video anyway, but content warning now, I'm going to discuss self-harm. So I hit a very low point. I can't remember what triggered it. I can't remember exactly what was going on in my life. I think I'd just recently broken up with my girlfriend at the time called Gina. Um, and but they were still really close to me. You know, it didn't end nastily, and they still are close to me. So I don't know what triggered it, but I went through a bout of self-harming quite badly. Not deep. I mean, I don't have scars. I mean, I have very faint little white ones, which I can only see because I know they're there. And so it was just starting from my wrist all the way up to my forearm, and then the same on that arm, so it was both arms just covered. And I messaged Gina on Snapchat, and I was like, Gina, like, I'm going through a really bad time, like, you know, I know that you understand this, and I've self-harm. And they came over and they looked after me, and they were very nice to me. And then my mum was like, why is Gina here? And Gina didn't tell my mum because they kind of respected that kind of thing, you know, you tell them when you're ready. But my mum saw, so she saw, and she was like, right, we're taking her to the doctors, this is out of control. And she was really angry, and she made me sit down in the living room like an intervention and said, show your dad your cuts now, show your dad. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I could not physically bring myself to lift up my own sleeve and show my father all of the pain I'd inflicted on myself. Like, that just goes against every grain you have inside of your body. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't do it. And then they were both really angry, and they were like, why are you doing this? But you know, it's because they care about me. And so I went to the doctors. My mum was like, show the doctor now. So I was like, I'm gonna show the doctor because I want help. She did. So I showed her, and she just said, and what do you expect me to do about that? And at the time, like, my mom was vexed. She was like, you know, like, fix her, make her better. But she's adopted. Do you know what I mean? Like, they do stuff with flu and I don't know, stuff like that, physical things. So she was like, okay, we're gonna um, reference her, whatever the word is. We're gonna send her to therapy. Rah, rah. So I found out I'd be getting more CBT, and I was like, for God's sake. So I started seeing someone, and on the first time that I saw her, she asked me about suicidal thoughts, and I said, yes, I have suicidal thoughts, yes, I self-harm, because I had no idea what was going on in my head at the time, and I was just in a bad place. And so she said, she started going west, like she started panicking, and she was like, oh, I'm not the right one to deal with you, rah rah, and she sent me to A&E. Huh? Like, I was fine, like, there and then, like, I was talking how I'm talking now, like, I was fine. So I think from the perspective of someone with BPD, that kind of behaviour of feeling suicidal or self-harm is just a normal day in the life of BPD. It doesn't mean that we're actually going to end our life, though, you know, a very high percentage of people with BPD unfortunately do take their own life. But, you know, it was just, I was feeling bad at the time. And she was like, we're waiting on an ambulance. And me and this therapist were just sat there waiting for this ambulance for ages. I mean, you know what the NHS is like. If you're in England, it's shite. So we were just waiting for ages. And I said, look, do you want me to get the bus and take myself to A&E? And she was like, I don't trust you. And I was like, like, I'm not going to do anything, you know what I mean? Obviously you don't know what I mean because, you know, from an outsider's perspective you won't panic. But I eventually convinced her to let me take myself to A&E. So I took myself to A&E on the bus. And then did I even go in? Yeah, I went in, and I had to wait for ages. I've been in A&E countless times. I had to wait for ages, then I eventually got seen, and I got seen by quite a few people, and then I had to speak to, it was like a crisis team or something, I can't remember, but there were two nurses inside this room, and I was very anxious, and I was trying to explain the way I felt, and they just kind of made me feel a little bit loco. But I was trying to explain the way I felt. I was like, this room makes me feel a certain way, like anything, like the smallest thing can make me feel like a completely different way. And they said, okay, well, we think we know what's wrong. And I was like, can you tell me? And they just wouldn't tell me. So they said we're gonna refer you to this particular team of therapy. So I waited a few months because waiting list was long. I went to see them. I had a session. Again, he wouldn't tell me what was wrong with me, but he said that he knew. Ugh. So I knew it was BPD, and no one was telling me, and no one would let me say that that was wrong with me. And then the therapist that was seeing me at this team, he said, I'm going to let you speak to a psychiatrist. So I spoke to a psychiatrist, and then he asked me like a few questions, and then he said, you have emotionally unstable personality disorder. And I thought, I was really annoyed because I was like, oh, I don't have BPD. I really thought I had that. And then I looked it up, and it was just another phrase for borderline personality disorder. And I was like, haha, I can now tell everybody that I do indeed have it. So I got discharged from there. Then was on a waiting list for 6 more months. Then by that time I was moving to a foundation degree to study in Manchester, so they said there's no point in seeing me, so I'll go and see someone in Manchester. Then I was on a waiting list in Manchester for a year. My foundation degree ended after a year, so now I'm on a waiting list in Leeds where I study now. So I got diagnosed at the end of 2015, starting to be 2016, so I've been waiting for therapy for borderline personality disorder for about year and a half. I think I've been diagnosed with it for 2 years. So, it kind of frustrates me when people say you should get therapy or stuff like that, because I'm trying. But to get a diagnosis of BPD is very hard because it's a complex disorder that doctors or psychiatrists or therapists don't give out nonchalantly. Nonchalantly, I don't know, whatever the word, they don't give it out easily, because it's very complex. And I don't mean to sound rude when I say this, but depression and anxiety aren't complex. Like, they are mental illnesses that can be fixed by medication and by talking therapies. It's not, it's okay, depression is feeling sad and low, anxiety is feeling anxious and nervous, whereas BPD has about 8 symptoms that you have to fit before you can be diagnosed with it, and after those 8 symptoms there are more. So yeah, that's how I was diagnosed. So I have a lot of people message me and they say, I have these symptoms or I have that symptoms, and I can, from knowing lots of people with BPD and from having it myself, I can pretty much spot if you have BPD or not. Someone came to me and they said, I think I have it. And they very rarely post on social media. They very rarely make stories. And when they do, they're not really selfies or stuff like that. Whereas a person with BPD would be posting, I don't know, 3 times a day or daily, and they'd be posting lots of selfies. I can just spot the telltale signs. So I really wouldn't, I didn't say I had BPD until I saw a doctor, a therapist, another therapist, and a psychiatrist. I didn't tell anyone, I didn't put it in an Instagram bio or anything, because it's a serious and a complex illness which you don't want. I'm aware that some people do like to label themselves, or do like to, say they have certain ailments because it makes people listen to them for whatever reason, or they're insecure. I don't know, but it's not cool, it's not fun, it's very serious, and if I could choose to not have this illness, I would in a heartbeat. But it doesn't make me who I am, but it's a big part of who I am. So if anyone thinks that they might have it, feel free to talk to me. But I'd say if you want to get a diagnosis, you're going to have to work a bit. But I was persistent in getting my diagnosis because I knew something wasn't right. I knew I fit that criteria perfectly. So I definitely advise seeing a doctor and getting them to refer you to someone more professional when it comes to mental health and the mind. So if anyone wants any more information on my story with borderline personality disorder, how I cope, how it affects me, what the symptoms are, then feel free to suggest it, inbox me or anything, and I'd be happy to make a video, because I want to break the stigma around this illness. I want people to be more aware of this illness and more understanding and patient of it. So thank you very much for watching. This is a lot longer than I thought it would be, but I hope it was helpful and insightful. Thank you and good night.